All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the deep biological mechanics of behavior change. We're finally going to answer one of the most maddening questions of the human experience. Why in the world do we keep doing things we know are bad for us? So if you've ever felt like you're fighting this totally losing battle against your own routines, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break down the actual, literal neuroscience of the habit loop.
We all know this frustrating paradox intimately, right? You wake up, you've got absolute determination. You tell yourself, okay, today is the day. But then, what actually happens? By evening, you're right back on the couch, scrolling endlessly through your phone, staring down into an empty snack bag. And man, it feels like a massive personal failure. But here's the thing. Your character isn't the problem here at all.
Now, what's kind of hilarious is that if you actually try to dig into the raw, peer-reviewed science of habits on major institutional sites like the NIH or APA, you might literally hit security roadblocks. We're talking 500 errors, Cloudflare blocks, the whole shebang. It's almost as if the internet itself is trying to keep this behavioral science a secret. But don't worry, today we're completely bypassing those roadblocks to bring the core science straight to you.
And this leads us to a massive, really fascinating curiosity gap. Look, we know vegetables are better than chips. We know getting a good night's sleep is infinitely better than doom scrolling until 2 a.m., so why do we do the exact opposite? Well, what if your failure to break a bad habit isn't a lack of motivation at all? What if, and stick with me here, it's actually a feature of how your brain was brilliantly designed millions of years ago just to keep you alive?
Section 1. Inside the habit brain. How neural efficiency drives our daily behavior.
So we've got this incredibly specific network of habit centers up there. You've got the basal ganglia, the prefrontal cortex, the striatum, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. You can actually think of the basal ganglia as your brain's autopilot system. These regions all team up to take behaviors that you initially had to think really hard about, like driving a car or learning to type, and they just push them right into the background. It totally reduces your cognitive load. Basically, your brain is literally transforming conscious, effortful decisions into unconscious survival mechanisms, just so it can save energy for other things.
And this brilliantly explains why modern temptations are just so incredibly hard to resist. It's thanks to this mechanism called reward prediction error. See, our brains evolved to hunt down quick calories and quick hits of dopamine. So when your phone buzzes with a notification or you grab a highly palatable snack, it completely hijacks this exact dopamine pathway. The brain learns to anticipate that instant gratification, and bam! It creates an overwhelming craving that completely overrides your logical desire for long-term, delayed rewards. It is a massive evolutionary mismatch. We're basically walking around with ancient brains trying to survive in a modern world.
To really grasp how these ancient systems process all these modern temptations, we've got to look at the habit loop, which was famously popularized by Charles Duhigg. It happens in 4 very exact steps. First, the cue triggers the craving, which then leads to the response, which finally delivers the reward. And here is the absolutely crucial biological part of this. Every single time you cycle through those 4 steps, your neurons are literally rewriting themselves. Through a process called neuroplasticity, that specific behavioral loop is getting etched deeper and deeper into your brain's actual physical circuitry.
And look, we aren't just guessing about this stuff. Decades of incredibly rigorous scientific experiments have mapped out these exact models. We're talking everything from Ivan Pavlov's famous classical conditioning with the dogs to B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning, all the way up to Wolfram Schultz's modern neuroscience studies on dopamine and Wendy Wood's phenomenal behavioral research. These brilliant minds have proven, time and time again, that our behaviors are largely driven by these deeply ingrained conditioned loops.
Which naturally brings us to the elephant in the room. If our brains are physically building and reinforcing these neurological loops over years and years, well, it kind of forces us to ask, why on earth do we still rely on the deeply flawed strategy of just trying harder? Like, why do we genuinely think sheer willpower is going to be enough to combat millions of years of evolutionary brain wiring?
Section 2. The willpower trap. Why motivation constantly fails under pressure. Now, it is absolutely vital to understand, right here and right now, that your bad habits are not some sort of character flaw. They're really just evidence that your brain is functioning perfectly and doing exactly what it evolved to do: conserve energy.
So, relying on sheer motivation, it's biologically futile. We are constantly battling things like decision fatigue, high cognitive loads, and chronic stress. Think about it. When you've had a brutally long, stressful day at work, Your prefrontal cortex, the logical, decision-making part of your brain, it is completely fried. And that is exactly when those hidden environmental triggers take over. Your brain just naturally defaults to its most energy-efficient pathways, which, unfortunately, are usually your oldest, most deeply ingrained bad habits.
25 million. That staggering number represents the copies of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear that have been sold worldwide. Just let that sink in for a second. 25 million people. That immense popularity proves just how desperately people all across the globe recognize that willpower is totally failing them and how hungry they are for a structural, evidence-based system that actually, finally works.
Section 3. Building better behaviors. Shifting from willpower to evidence-based systems.
So, to actually hack this habit loop, we have to lean on frameworks like habit stacking, environment design, and tiny habits. These are the tools that genuinely work because they leverage the brain's natural tendencies instead of constantly fighting against them. Take environment design, for example. That's all about changing your context. If you want to stop eating junk food, you don't just sit there relying on willpower to resist the cookies in your pantry. No, you simply design an environment where the cookies literally aren't in the house to begin with. You focus on consistency over intensity, making the good behaviors ridiculously easy and the bad behaviors really difficult.
And because this methodology is just so effective, these exact strategies have actually been codified into dedicated digital tools, like an 11-lesson email course or the official Atoms app. They're designed explicitly to take the guesswork completely out of habit building. It's honestly a fantastic example of applied behavioral science. It ensures that you don't have to rely on your already tired brain to figure it out all over again every single day.
Now, as we learn to master our current environments and utilize the tools we have available today, it is thrilling to think about what's coming next. Like, how are emerging technologies going to intersect with these ancient behavioral loops hardwired into our brains?
Looking ahead, the integration of technology and our biology is about to get incredibly intimate. We're looking at a near future filled with AI actively tracking our behaviors, wearable biometric devices that can sense we're stressed before we even realize it ourselves, and highly personalized digital nudges. There's even ongoing research right now into brain stimulation to alter neural pathways directly. This is going to open up some absolutely incredible new opportunities and, for sure, some ethical questions for how we manage our automatic behaviors.
You are not trapped by your habits. You are shaped by them. The single most beautiful thing about the human brain is neuroplasticity. It remains totally adaptable throughout your entire life. Think about that. The exact same brain that built your bad habits has the exact same machinery required to rebuild better ones. Every small action, every tiny habit you repeat today truly builds the person you become tomorrow. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Knowing what you know now about how your brain works, what tiny habit are you going to change first?